Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I would like to announce Emmanuel Macron's end of political life. Why? He said that France will recognize Palestine as a state. He's toast, I would say. Now, why would he do that? Well, I got two articles here to reveal the reason he is mentioning, and I would give you the reasons I think are behind this big, beautiful thing, recognizing Palestine as a state. I think it's fantastic. Well, will it be implemented? No. So, will it have any value? No. Associated Press, July 24th, 2025. French President Macron said France will recognize Palestine as a state. So it's not like would, could, may, might, ought. No, it's will. That means it will happen. And here is a man of his word right there. I know what you're thinking. Let's move on. Paris. French President Emmanuel Macron announced Thursday, today, that France will recognize Palestine as a state in a bold diplomatic move amid snowballing global anger over people starving in Gaza. Israel denounced the decision. That's why he's toast. Now, I don't think Macron is doing anything but fulfilling something that was actually agreed upon in 1948. So when the Jewish state was allowed to exist with a lot of things, then it says in parallel with that, we have a Palestinian state. I don't know if that was fair or not, but at least give those guys part of their land. Well, it didn't happen. Why? It's a promised land, and it was promised only to the Jews, not to the Palestinians. The Palestinians, I don't know, fuck them, can be going to, I don't know, like the Amorites or the Canaanites. You know what I mean? That's the thinking. You don't think so? Anyway, let's move on. Macron said in a post on X that he will formalize the decision of the United Nations General Assembly in September. Well, General Assembly is not, you know what I mean, the other guys. The urgent thing today is that the war in Gaza stops and the civilian population is saved. Well, why don't you send the Palestinians some, I don't know, some scalp missiles, or buy some Patriots for them to defend themselves, because they're civilians. Isn't that the reason why the West is sending Ukraine? Because the evil Russians are killing civilians? Oh, I know. In self-defense, it seems like you can do what the fuck ever you want. If you are... Cheers, Norok. I have to be careful. I can't say too much truth here. Right? They will search for me. Anyway, the mostly symbolic move, puts added diplomatic pressure on Israel. No, it doesn't. As the war and humanitarian crisis in Gaza Strip rage, France is now the biggest Western power to recognize Palestine, and the move could pave the way for other countries to do the same. More than 140 countries recognize a Palestinian state, including more than a dozen in Europe, my friends. So what do you think? Well, according to democracy, voting is 140 out of 193. It depends. When the CIA topples one or two governments, we have 192, 191, 995. It depends. So right now it's about 193. Tomorrow could be 192. It depends how the FBI, CIA wants. So this is the first article. The other one is basically the same, but it comes from a different source, which is Russia Today. France to recognize Palestine. Macron. The present announcement sets France apart from the US and most of its allies, which do not recognize the territory as a state. All right, so what's going on here? Well. I personally think that a Palestinian state should have, well, I don't want to go even before that, but my first question will be this, and I'm going to tell it as a free person that supposedly I am. I should be allowed to say this. I don't know, for instance, if you can just create a state for some people because they are not around and they point to you that is not Madagascar, but is the Middle East exactly there. because in the Bible it said so. I know history shows them in the area as well. I don't deny that. But they took over from other people, Canaanites, Amorites, and others. So I don't know if the 1948 was just for the Palestinian side. It might have been just for the other guys, but not for the Palestinians, I think. But nevertheless, it's done. You can't undo that unless you just, you know what I mean, pack, zoop out, bye-bye this time. So I don't promote that. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope that in the Middle East is peace, and these people can coexist, as they say, together, not apart, as these guys want, but together. But they can't do that because they're a very tiny minority. They will be swollen. They will have no political party. If Israel, or the Great Israel, I want to call it, would be allowed to have the other guys, all that, you can say, well, no, Emil. The Palestinians have rights to vote in Israel. You know that. Well, why don't you go and study the details about the votes, okay? When I'm going to see a Palestinian chief of Mossad, when I'm going to see a Palestinian president or prime minister, or I don't know, defense minister, then I will say that Palestine is like the United States of America. Diversity is our strength. Until then, no, it's a Jewish state. What does that mean? We can't say it. But you know exactly what I mean. So, under the circumstances, I think a Palestinian state should be around. Now, you may say, well, you know, do you remember what happened in 1948? The minute they were created the state, the Arabs got on them, and the poor guys had to defend themselves, man. They didn't have anything. Well, that's this much of the story. Why don't you read the rest? What happened? The guys, when they got the land, what they did? Picked them up and whoop, threw them over the new borders. That's what triggered the, okay, the Arabs being so upset. I mean, would you be happy? Let's say you are on your property, and you're an American, let's say, and you stay and all of a sudden an Indian shows up. And the Indian shows up with a guy with some bazookas behind him, and with a lot of money. The Indian got a lot of money. I said, India, not from India. You know, the Indian American from India, if you want, from East Asia, genetically, that's where they are from. I'm not lying, that's a fact. I mean, I know they don't like to say that way because they say they're natives, but you can't be native coming from somewhere else. Therefore, you're not native, so fuck off. So nevertheless, let's move on. I think I will post this on Rumble. I said too much already for YouTube. Too much truth for YouTube to handle the truth. You can't handle the truth. No. No. I said no. No. I can't move. Fuck off. Okay. So it's too late now. You got those guys over there. What can you do? Well, a lasting peace and so on. Macron is done. Why do you think Macron did this? I suspect that the media and the people behind the media would like to release a little piece of information or more about Mr. Macron. And that will really embarrass many, many people around Macron. Okay? Therefore, he says, oh, I didn't see that one. Right there. Wink, wink. All right, I'm going to recognize them. So I think he is now saying, you want to do that to me? I will do this to you. Well, symbolic. Why symbolic? Because they can't do anything. How are you going to enforce that? You have no teeth. Not teeth. Teeth. How are you going to enforce? The Americans are owned. You can't do anything about it. What are you going to do? You're going to bring troops? United Nations troops or something? The Americans will fuck you up in no time. Why? They're owned. By whom? I don't know. I'm just dreaming of a white Christmas. Anyway, so yeah, it's nice. It's nice. But I think, as it says, has no value. 140 countries on this planet recognize. And the rest of, 53, they don't. But then we like democracy, right? And we talk about Putin. Putin should start the carnage. And there are 50 countries who say that? And the rest of 143 that don't say that? You see, values, principles are not situational. They are as they are. You say incest is wrong. You say pedophilia is wrong. Homosexuality is wrong. Is wrong. But you have to stick with it. If your son becomes or your daughter, You have to keep saying it. Well, it's wrong. According to my values, that is wrong. I love you. You might seem happy, but it's wrong from my values. And that's it, regardless. That's when you have values. So I think in this case, the Americans, with their democracy and freedom, 140 countries said, hey, what are we going to do here? That's non-negotiable. We tell you what to do. Well, that sounds like tyrannical to me. So it's not going to happen Nothing will happen. As long as Israel has the key for Americans' chain, nothing will happen on this planet. Once that key is dropped or taken away forcefully, then things could happen. But you have a problem. These people have nuclear weapons. So you're done. And I personally think, as a free human being, I could have gut feelings. I think they will have no problem using nuclear weapons on anybody, including the Americans. Why? Look what they do to the people in Gaza. Do you think they care about that? No. So, thank you very much, Mr. Macron. This is the end of the line. If you continue saying that, you will be out before you think you could be. Your term expires. Why? The media will release some information. Mr. Macron, you were by Brigitte when you were a minor. What are we going to do about it? You're going to be indicted and so on. Not you. She will be. We blackmail you, and that's it. I suspect that's one of the blackmails behind the scenes. Therefore, he's now trying to balance it. I want you guys to help me with Candace Owens and everybody else. If you don't, I'm going to just symbolically do this. But it's no problem. After Macron is out, the next baboon is going to show up and is going to overturn. So, no, we don't recognize it. Why? I'm not going to bite the hand that fed me, put me in that position. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.